She was on our list for today, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, with us to react. Good to see you, ma'am. Bill Clinton tomorrow, what do you hope to learn?
Well, I think this is really a story, and I disagree almost entirely with your monologue introduction there. But this is really a story of the haves versus the have-nots. The Clintons demanded that our Congressional Oversight Committee come to New York, travel to New York, hundreds of media, because they're too good, too entitled, and too privileged to come to Washington, D.C. to do this deposition, to have these subpoenas happen and have this testimony in this hearing. And I got to tell you, I'm glad that Secretary Clinton came today. She sat there for hours. We went tit for tat. I went 3 rounds with the secretary.
Okay.
And I will tell you that some of the information I felt was obfuscated. And I think that Bill Clinton knows more than what he will let on tomorrow. But this is about the powerful versus the powerless. And you say, just let it slide. Let it just go by the wayside because these people are powerful and they're political and this is just the product of mutual destruction. But there are a lot of women here. There are over 1,000 women that are victims of Jeffrey Epstein. We had Alexander Acosta in Florida. Let him off the hook. For what reason?
Okay, a couple of things.
With no federal charges. I mean, this is a huge story.
Okay.
And it does.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It is a huge story. My curiosity is why it is a matter for Congress. But a few things. You're telling me that all of this, everything to get Hillary Clinton to come testify, and the most you have is a complaint that a couple members of Congress had to get on an airplane?
No, that's not what I said at all. I'm just saying the entitlement there. This is the powerful versus the powerless, the rich versus those who are poor. I led with that because I see this as us versus them. I'm from Goose Creek, South Carolina. I am a survivor. And I've seen in my own case and other cases, whether it's murder cases, cases of sexual assault, pedophilia in my state and in states across the country, those who are doing wrong, who are connected, always get away with the crime. And that is the epitome of the Jeffrey Epstein case. I think we should talk to everyone, Republican and Democrat alike, including Howard Lutnick, who I asked Secretary Clinton about today, what their involvement was, what they knew, when they knew it, how they knew it, and why. I just don't understand why this is okay in America. It's not.
We are, though, a nation of laws, ma'am. We're not a nation of guilt by association. And never before has Congress taken the investigative...
You don't think these are potential witnesses? If a president flew on the Lolita Express or Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, a former president, you don't think we should ask him questions about who was giving him a massage and were they underage?
I don't know why that's
Even Kevin Spacey had something to say about how uncomfortable and inappropriate it was. When a gay guy says that about women being on a plane, you know it's a red flag.
I don't know how it's the purview of Congress. To me, it's the purview of the Justice Department. I'm trying to figure out why...
Who's done nothing, by the way, and they haven't even released all the files. Millions of files have not been released, terabytes of data.
Is it possible that the reason that Justice Departments of both parties never indicted anyone because there was not enough evidence to indict someone? Is that not a possibility?
No,
So you're sure there's crimes that have been committed?
100%. Have you seen any of the video interviews of the teenage girls in Florida?
You're sure there's other men who there is evidence that they are guilty of a crime, of a sex crime beyond a reasonable doubt?
I am absolutely positive of that. I believe that women who've come forward in the Epstein, because of evidence I've seen, the victims I've spoken to, and look, I'm a survivor, and I'm not going to sit here and water down the stories of survivors and say every woman that comes forward, Leland, shouldn't be believed. And that's essentially what you're saying right now.
No, ma'am, I'm not.
I want to...
And you know how much, ma'am, you know how much respect I have for you.
You're saying there's no evidence of anything.
No, you know how much respect I have for you, and you know how much respect I have for your story and what you've been through, which to me makes it all the more important, which is why are we not dealing with a specific accusation against a specific person who is accused of a crime? That's how America works. Someone comes up, this person committed a crime. It is not a witch hunt of just because someone happened to be on an island sometime.
I'm going to take you back.
They get pulled before Congress.
To the early 2000s when Alexander Acosta indicted Jeffrey Epstein, convicted him on 1 count of soliciting an underage child for sex. Okay, 1. Do you know how many women came forward that were underage teenagers that they interviewed, that the state law enforcement division interviewed in Florida? Over 50, okay?
Dozens.
And they convicted him on one. Why is that? And why was it that Alexander Acosta did a deal that wouldn't allow the feds to indict Jeffrey Epstein? And I think at the bottom of this, is he an asset? Is he not? Was the files and the videos that he had that have not been put out yet, by the way. He had lockers full, storage units full of videos and audio that have somehow disappeared.
You've thrown an awful lot of smoke out and no fire. There's all of these different data points that point to a conspiracy, except the evidence of the actual conspiracy. Why has Alex Acosta been called to testify before the House Oversight Committee?
I believe he testified in the fall, but I'm going to tell you, I have been to the DOJ 3 times, Leland, and the documents that I want to see naming co-conspirators in this prostitution, sex trafficking, and human trafficking ring, the names of those co-conspirators are still redacted. You know who they're redacted by? The Southern District of New York. So there may appear to be smoke to you, but as someone who's been to the files, seen the files, unredacted, names are still redacted because this will go down as one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. And here you are defending pedophiles, defending pedophiles against women who have been wronged by rich and powerful men, political men, and it's disgusting.
Congresswoman, for me to
we
be
can
defending,
do better for these
Congressman, for me to be defending pedophiles, you would have to be naming the pedophiles, and you're not. And there's a reason for that, which is
that... And they're redacted. The names are redacted in the files, I'm telling you.
You've seen the names.
I have seen lists of names. I've seen lists of people who might be co-conspirators. I've seen lists of people of witnesses. I've seen lists of victims. I've seen lists of people. The DOJ and the FBI have many lists of people.
So you're saying that
lists of people that were in a lineup.
Okay, and by the way, there is such a thing as being named as a possible co-conspirator and not being indicted because there is not evidence to do so. You're accusing me of
trying... And do you know why people were not indicted, Leland? Do you know why people were not indicted? Because they were given immunity. Yes, because they were given immunity so that nobody gets charged with a crime. And in fact, you'll see people, I believe, that the Oversight Committee will bring in Leon Black and others, maybe Bill Gates, that I believe will have more information too, just like the Clintons.
So let me just ask you this question. Why, and I've been fascinated by this, why have none of these women come out publicly and said, Jeffrey Epstein trafficked me to this rich and powerful man, I'm suing him, or I want him charged? If what you're saying is true, if there's all of these victims out there who were trafficked to other men, shouldn't a couple of them have come out by now?
Virginia Giuffre Roberts did that, and she's dead. And I have spoken to other victims who are deathly afraid to name some of the individuals, particularly those who are politically influential, maybe former prime ministers and other dignitaries overseas. They're deathly afraid of naming some of those individuals. And I know personally that when you name names,
Prince Andrew's
as
been
a
named.
Victim, when you get and when you're a survivor, I'm going to tell you, Leland, when you name names, you get sued. I'm in the middle of living that real-time nightmare. Myself and the other 2 women who came forward in my own case are all being sued. When you name names, that's what happens as a woman when you come forward. Which is why we're doing this interview tonight to water down the truth and the experiences and the rapes of these women in the Epstein files. It harms women, not just in the United States, but around the world.
If the accusations can't hold up to the street, no, I'm not. If the accusations can't stand up to a cable news interview, how are they going to stand up in court to bring any of these people to justice?
Name the last person that raped a woman that got convicted. You just can't. It doesn't happen because nobody wants to prosecute these crimes. And I have to tell you, I see it in my own state. We had a case the state prosecuted.
Harvey
a pedophile
Weinstein?
had 1,900. No, he's going to be on my list, by the way. But in my own state,
you
of South
asked who was the last person who was accused of rape? Who was accused of rape, and a very powerful man was accused and convicted.
Smart. How many years ago? How many years ago was that?
What do you,
How many years ago was he convicted?
Why does it matter how many years ago?
Years.
The point is that
because
powerful people
no one
are
gets
charged.
indicted and no one gets convicted of these crimes. In my own state of South Carolina, Donald Gresh was caught with 1,900 images of children, toddlers as young as 3, being raped by animals. Do you know how much time he served after he was indicted, Leland? He served 1 day
I don't know how we got down to South Carolina.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Seems like a local problem, not something
because I'm
to deal
running
with
for
the
governor, and I'm relating the Epstein case where nobody goes to jail to other cases across the country. This is the haves versus the have-nots. These are powerful people with rich money and powerful political connections that never go to jail for the crimes that they commit. And the Epstein saga is, I think, emblematic of a nationwide problem, a cultural problem that we have when a woman comes forward. She is a liar, and you know what? We're going to denigrate her reputation because the person that she's accusing is an honest person. And it's just not the case. And I say that as a survivor who's fighting for other survivors, including the Epstein victims. And I think we should interview everyone, Republican and Democrat alike, should come before our committee to get to the bottom of this. How did this happen? How are other foreign countries arresting people that we're not? England is doing more than we ever have.
Because the U.S. is a country of laws. I don't like witch hunts or the Al Capone standard, but I know you have to go.
Well, go ahead and keep defending a pedophile. That's fine. That's your legacy. That will not be mine.
Okay. I'll let you make the accusation, Congresswoman. You're always welcome back. Thank you very much. I know you have a heart out. We'll pick this up the next time.
I'll always come back. Thank you, Leland.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.